or anybody that you might know, when they're going through a split up, isn't it always true that somebody wants to know whose fault it was? Oh, it's so-and-so's fault. Oh, it's his fault. It's her fault. It's a really interesting context when you talk about the specificity of divorce. So now we're adding the construct of married people, right? And then you also add the construct of things possessed or owned. And that could mean a lot of things. I mean, that actually, we're even going to get into the human element of that as well, probably chief on the list. It's 3 misconceptions married people have about splitting up. And I'm flanked by an industry expert in this field, Ronza Rafo, rafolaw.com. Say what's up, Ronza.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for having me on your show, and good morning, San Diego.
You betcha. So check it out. Let's get into this. I want to start with that because this is what I get all the time, right? Someone's got a house. The capitulation is already unfolded. We're in that conversation. And when it comes to who gets what or how the whole thing's going to play out, the prevailing flag in the wind blowing highest is whose fault it is, right? So talk to us about that. Like, does it matter whose fault it is?
Well, no. California is a no-fault state. So in regards to divorce, what that means is that when a spouse is asking for a divorce, they don't have to prove that the other spouse did anything wrong. All they need to do is state that the couple cannot get along, and that's what the court refers to as irreconcilable differences.
Wow, that's a $10 word you're already dropping. 10:04 a.m., which basically means what?
It basically means that we just can't, we don't want to be married anymore.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Throw an old blues song in there. She don't love me anymore. You didn't know you're going to get serenaded here.
Are you going to rap too?
Maybe a little bit later.
All right.
Let's not overpromise. But let's tear into this though a little bit because there's some specificities around that construct, right? So is there anything more you can share about that specifically? Like, does it matter at all in the least bit when somebody, let's use an example, like somebody cheated on the other person?
Right.
Okay. So obviously there was a bad guy and a good guy.
Right.
What then?
It doesn't matter. The court doesn't care.
What about the kids love one of the family member or one of the parents more than the other?
It doesn't matter.
What if they leave the house with bell-bottom blue polyester pants every day?
The court, well, don't go to court wearing that, but no, it really doesn't matter. In California, no one is at fault. You can just state to the court that you no longer want to be married.
Truth Nation, I'm driving this point home so we can put this to bed once and for all. It doesn't matter. California is a no-fault state. In
order to get a divorce, it does not matter whose fault it is. There is no bad guy or good guy.
Yeah, I should say it matters, but in this room and the conversation we're having, it does not. So finally, can we put that misconception to bed?
Yes.
Okay, then let's move on then. So what's the second one on there? Because we got 3 of them. And the second one I think is probably one that moves the needle the most. Talk to me about the assets.
Well, the most common misconception is hiding money. Yeah. People think, okay, I'm married. I have my own separate account on the side. I'm going to go ahead and work and just stash money there. You know, save it for a rainy day in case one day we go our separate ways and that's my money. That's incorrect. See, California is a community property state. So everything that you earn before you get married, everything you own before you get married, that's your own separate property, in addition to inheritances and gifts. As well as after separation, that's your own separate property. But everything that you acquire during the course of marriage, both assets and debts, that is community property, meaning each spouse has a 50% interest, an equal share in that. Now, of course, there are many exceptions, but that's the general rule.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what you know, a lot of times in a relationship, one person kind of manages the money, and sometimes they both do, but a lot of times you kind of split up roles. Some people are better at things than others, right? Would you think that's fair?
I would say I'm better than my husband, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We're getting a little too truthy up here in Truth Radio. But let's say one of them knows they're going to leave the other one, and they also happen to be the one that controls the money. And they start doing some things with the money in advance, getting ready for the event that they know that they're going to do. So they move some stuff around, okay,
right,
in advance. And then, boom, the anvil drops, okay, divorcing you, whatever. How does that work?
Okay, well, first, it's a huge risk. It's a crime, and I just don't do it. That's my advice to everyone. But people still do it, you know.
Right.
They anticipate the divorce. They start hiding. If the other party can prove in court that you were doing that was your intention, and you can locate that money, then you still may have an interest and possibility of, protecting that interest.
What's the actual crime?
Well, you're hiding money, basically. And then once you file for a divorce, also, there's an automatic restraining order that goes into effect. And it's not the typical restraining order we're thinking about, like, hey, stay away from me, 50 feet. No, it's actually a restraining order on the couple's assets, money, the properties, kind of the court's way of saying, like, all right, there's a divorce open, no one touches anything.
Obviously, I'm talking to you like we've known each other forever. I just realized that Truth Nation probably has no idea. I mean, there's fans lining up outside chanting your name, but for someone who hasn't actually had a chance to meet you yet, maybe we should take a half step back. So maybe introduce yourself for the first time.
Well, I'm Ronza Rafo. I'm an attorney here in San Diego, which is where I was born and raised. I practice family law, which includes divorce and custody, support, prenups. And in addition to being unique, for being born and raised in San Diego, because you never see that here. I mean, I feel like everyone here is not from here. If you are in a position where the truth is not convenient for you, I'm not your girl. I think that's what really sets me apart. But if you want me to advise you the way I would my friend or my family member, that includes the straightforward, ugly truth, then yeah, I am the attorney for you. A lot of my colleagues tell me, don't speak like that to your clients, but I found that my clients actually really love it. They prefer that I just cut through the fluff and puff and talk to them like a normal person.
Yeah, I dig that. There's something that comes up for me when I speak with you and when we talk about this stuff is that it seems like there's one version of the truth, and then there's everything else. And that's why I loved it to have you here in the captain's seat right now, because that's sort of how you're wired. Like, for you, it's very black and white, it seems to me anyway. And so you don't let anybody get away with anything. Right? Am I right about you on that?
Right.
So it's like when you're sitting down with somebody, you kind of cut right through the butter, right? You're like, hey, this is what's up. And you're either on this train or you're on these tracks.
Right. And people either love it or hate it. And I found that my clients actually love it.
I think it would be very refreshing, personally.
Thank you.
Hopefully I don't have to retain your services, right? So let's get back into this. So we scarf down, hopefully, once and for all, the concept of whose fault is it. For goodness sakes, gang, this is a no-fault state. Let's get past that. Also, and I see this all the time, Ronza, is the whole concept of shifting money around and stuff like that, where one person's going to get burned and the other one's the hero. It's a law. It's a crime, gang. Okay? It happens all the time, but be very careful if you think that's you and you could imagine yourself doing that. And then the third one, it has to do with what, Ronza?
Basically, going back to the separate property and community property, the most common in, tying this into real estate, the most common misconception is you have a spouse, let's say husband.
Yeah. This is the one I'm dying to get to.
Yes. I know. I could see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
All right. So a husband bought a house before marriage. He gets married, and so that's his separate property because he got it before marriage, right? He gets married, and then at divorce, the wife wants half of the house. So this is a very complicated question that depends on so many different factors, right? Did the wife contribute her own separate funds to that house? Did the couple have a prenup agreement? But when a spouse purchases a home before marriage, if community funds are used to make the mortgage payments or improve that property during the course of marriage, then the other spouse has acquired an interest in the home. So during the divorce, the court will use a series of formulas to calculate the spouse's interest in that home, and they'll be reimbursed for those contributions.
So let's say they do like a remodel or something, right? They drop like 150 into a expansive, bed and bath addition, whatever. They redo the kitchen, whatever. So 150's into it.
Right.
Let's just say husband, for whatever, owned the house before, then they met, they got married, now she's part of the picture. 150 in renovations. What, she gets half of the value of the 150 in renovations?
Well, and then how much it increased the value of the home.
Right. So it's not just the cost.
Right.
It's also so how would you go back in time and set a referent of what the home was worth when they got married?
Honestly, record keeping.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everybody. Got to keep records.
Okay. So what about if there's a refinance? So let's say okay, like same scenario to make this easy. So let's say husband owns the house before, and then they meet, they get married, and then there's a refinance done, and now she's on title. Okay, because she's like now she's in the deal, like, right, they're married, and so now she's on that loan. How does that work?
Regardless of the refinance, she would have an interest to that home.
Okay.
Now, with the refinance, again, the court will use a variety of formulas to look at, okay, well, how much was the home worth? When was the refinance done? What's the home worth now? What's the debt versus the actual value of the home?
Yeah. What's it encumbered by?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. This is such a thing so a lot of people think, at least the people that I talk to anyway, is that it just has to do with like this chronology thing where if they own the home before, regardless of what happened in the interim. And by the way, that's another thing that comes up too. What about payments? What about actually servicing the debt? So let's say none of that happens. Let's say there's no renovations. Let's say there's no refinance that happens. But the wife in our scenario is contributing to the payments once she comes on the scene.
So here's a little thing. She doesn't have to be working and contributing her own earnings to the payments.
Right, because she could be contributing in other ways.
Right. So if the husband is working and she's a stay-at-home mom, whatever the husband's earning, don't forget, she has 50% interest in that. That's community funds, and that's being used to pay off the debt. Yeah.
Gang, I hope, for all of our sakes, mine included, that these 3 misconceptions and myths, call them what you want, landed home for us once and for all. I'd love for this to be shared with anybody who you might know who's going through the space. These are the 3 headless horsemen of this conversation. If we can get in front of these 3 things, I think a lot of the rest of splitting up would go a lot better. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Fair enough. That's Ronza right there, gang. That's why we got her in studio. If you want to check her out and learn a little bit more about what she does, it's Rafo Law. That's RAFOLAW.com. And what did you leave for Truth Nation that helps carry this conversation a little bit forward? Anything over on your site as a good reference?
No, just,
The site's badass, though, so I'll just say it like that. So I'm sure there's tons of info in case they want to go catch up on that. That's rafolaw.com, or you can call her at 844-RAFOLAW. Gang, coming up, let's do this. If we could imagine this conversation bifurcated into 2 maybe not so equal halves, we handled the misconception first. Now it's time to talk about the kids. We'll be right back. Truth Nation.